It is amazing that in modern times we have game engines and software tools advanced enough so that small independent teams can create something as visually stunning as a AAA game. And nothing says living the indie dream quite in the way that Yangbing does. The creator of Lost Souls Aside, a game that its creator says was inspired by the trailers for Final Fantasy Versus 13 and 15, which is probably why the character bears such a resemblance to Noctis. And given that the game was first announced in 2016, and here we are still waiting for it in 2021, 5 years later, it looks like those lengthy development times were also a source of inspiration. Aside from this, you can also see some very obvious Devil May Cry influence. I mean, at this point, it almost feels like Final Fantasy and Devil May Cry are like destined to merge. What started off as a project entirely led by Bing himself. After being approached by Sony and receiving funding, he was able to form a studio of 29 people. While this is nowhere near the staff of a AAA game, which can be comprised of hundreds of people, that still has not stopped the team from creating something truly impressive, with them just recently uploading over 18 minutes of gameplay footage. And speaking of Final Fantasy 15 inspiration, the game looks so good in the trailer that I can't actually believe that it's real. As things look from the trailer, it looks like one of those it's too good to actually play like that type situations. Again, hoping he doesn't take that inspiration too literally. From what we can tell from a visual perspective, the game is bolstering action that's on par with something like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. And honestly, if a small team like this can achieve fluid action on par with those titles, I would say that's definitely a victory. In the game, you take the role of the protagonist Kaiser, a distant cousin of Noctis. They even wear the same red bottom shoes and really similar jackets. Kaiser is also joined by what has been described as a mysterious crystal dragon. The current story synopsis we have is, quote, "The war ended 10 years ago. The unknown monsters then appeared. Kaiser accidentally got combined with an ancient race Arena. Then they got on the journey to seek for the mysterious crystals with their own purposes. This is not for saving the world, just for saving myself." Very anime protagonist of you, Kaiser. Boy out here sounding like Disc 1 Cloud. The character designs and artwork are pretty stellar in this game, not to mention the incredible animations. I mean, look at this Gilgamesh looking dude using unlimited blade works, or armature or something. The way these golden swords animate is truly incredible, though as a small critique, some of the sound design is currently sounding a little weak, with some of the hits sounding like slapping a wet towel. And while the voice acting is in some dialect of Chinese, as someone who has spent a lot of time recording audio, I could sort of tell that the quality of recordings was somewhat low. However, keep in mind that this was probably recorded during the pandemic, which would explain the situation there. Though again, this is a game still in development, and hopefully that will be something improved by the time the game comes out. Although, even if it isn't, it's not really a deal breaker. And considering just how impressive what we've seen is overall, it's hardly the focal point here for me. While what we saw in the trailer was a very linear action game segment, the game's website describes it as refined open world fantasy. It'll be really interesting to see how they balance having an open world on top of having these really intense linear action segments, particularly when it can be very difficult to have both of those elements all within one game. But honestly, I'm super excited to see how Yangbing and his team at UltiZero will pull it off. Now, you might be wondering when you're going to be able to get your hands on this, though sadly there is currently still no date on it. However, it is coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. As far as Xbox fans go, I would not hold my breath if I were you. With the game being published by Sony, it is at the very least a timed exclusive. You know, seeing these small developers able to create such massive games really warms my heart. And it's a firm reminder that the future of video games is not just in the hands of the multi-billion-dollar corporations, unless you include the software tools themselves, but that we as gamers can also be creatives as well. It's incredible, and honestly, I look forward to covering more Lost Soul Aside in the future. With that said, Ultima, will you be picking up Lost Soul Aside whenever it eventually comes out? Let me know in the comments below. Shout out to patron Lexamen and the rest of the Ultima community.